Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Henchman's Memoirs. So today we have another special campaign advice episode. I wanted to talk about the absolutely vital step in preparing for your next campaign that all the other YouTube pundits seem to be leaving out of the process. We're going to be talking about making NPC cards. We're going to talk about how to do it, why you should be doing it for you, why you should be doing it for your players, and I'm even going to include a pro-level 4D chess tip at the very end, so stick around for that if you want to see what that is. But right now I'm running two Ravenloft campaigns. My Tuesday night group is going through the House on Griffin Hill, which I have expanded with some content from an excellent module called the Dread House. I've kind of combined those into a full-length 5e D&D campaign, and then of course my Wednesday night group is running through my Ravenloft version of the Dark Souls of Drakkenheim. They're both of these campaigns past the 2/3 point, I would say, in the story, so I'm already thinking about the next campaigns that both of these groups are going to be running through, and I've started prepping for them. And I go through all the steps that all the other RPG YouTube pundits tell you to go through. I get a PDF of it. I always get a physical copy. I can't run from just PDFs. Some people can. I get the physical copy. I start going through the PDF. I start making notes in the, with little Post-it notes. I go through the physical copy and I add tabs, stuff like that. I watch a bunch of YouTube videos of people playing the campaign or talking about the campaign, reviewing the campaign. I do all the stuff that everybody tells you to do. But I do another important step that nobody seems to talk about, and that is preparing NPC cards for the campaign. So first of all, let's talk about how, as you're prepping a campaign, you should be prepping NPC cards. Okay? You basically, as you're reading through the first town of whatever campaign you're looking at, you need to be writing down and making a little spreadsheet of some of the important NPCs in that area. Right? Who is the local blacksmith? Who are they going to run into at the inn? Who are some of the, who's the head cleric of the town? Who are some of the major NPCs? And the rule that you want to use for yourself, whether or not an NPC needs a card, always has to do with, is the party going to talk to them more than 2 times? Or are they going to be mentioned more than 2 times where the party is going to have to keep hearing about a particular NPC, okay? Maybe before they actually run into them. If any character in that first town is going to be mentioned or visited more than twice, you're going to put them on your list. You're going to put on your list what page they're on or what location they're in, and you're going to start hunting down the art for them. Now, one of the things that bothers me to death is that you have to go through the PDF and you have to capture the image and you have to go online and get the background text taken out on some kind of background remover. You're going to create either a Word document, you're going to create a Microsoft Paint document, something like that, where you can start copying and pasting and putting all these pictures in. Now, I know what you're thinking. Some of you, a lot of you people play online, and you may have bought the module online. You'll be like, Henchman, I don't need to go through all these steps you're describing. I have all these pieces of art, that I can just show to my players. Wrong. You do not get to skip this step just because you're playing online. Believe me. So one reason that you are going to need to go through this step, even if you're playing with online digital assets, is art is expensive. And no module out there, not even the Dungeons of Drakkenheim, which, made a $1 kajillion on Kickstarter, none of them provide all the art you need for all the characters that you're going to end up having on that list. Take Emma Crow. There's like one picture that shows her sitting up in a tree, but there's not a picture that really shows her. Her father, Tobias Crow. Blackjack Mel, I can't remember if there was a picture of him or not. But there are all these characters in the starting town who don't have art. And so you are going to need to go out and find appropriate art for them. I don't even know if they had art for Petra Lang, and she's been a major NPC in our telling of the story. So you're going to have to go through this step too, regardless of who you are. You're going to have to go out there and find art. First of all, you're going to capture art from the thing, like this excellent picture of Aldor the Immense, right? Fantastic picture. You're gonna capture these. You're gonna put them into a document. I didn't do a very good job of making them all the same size. You're gonna make them all more or less the same size. And for the people that there's not art in the book for, you're just going to go out on the internet and you're going to search, dark fantasy Ravenloft human blacksmith. Dark fantasy, sinister-looking thief guy. Now, you'll notice I didn't use the art for River because my Ravenloft campaigns have practically no tieflings. And if there was a tiefling, they would be chased by the Inquisition from one end of Ravenloft to the other. So because I'm doing more of a Victorian thing, I make a lot of the people human. There's no art in there for the rival band of adventurers, right? So I had to go and get this. This is obviously from the Darkest Dungeon. And I added the names of the rival band of adventurers, which I named the Unrivaled Four, because that's my sense of humor. And I went ahead and created this, okay? So you're gonna create all these pictures. You're gonna get all of these photos. So in the house on Griffin Hill, Ravenloft 2, I used a lot more actual photographs of actors, and I just went through and sort of Googled different sort of Victorian films that some of these people were in, right? Different, Sherlock Holmes movies and stuff like that, where I could find actors in sort of period Victorian dress, and I just downloaded those. I ended up using this for Lord Weathermay. Excellent art, photographs that are very evocative of the period and give me something to grab onto. So you're going to go through and you're going to create all of these. You're going to print these all out on cardstock, and you're going to cut them apart. Right now, in my campaign, I have these sort of clips on top of my DM screen, and they're kind of made for if you're at a buffet or something, and it's the little sign that tells you, this is beef bourguignon or whatever it is. But they clip onto the top of my DM screen, and they have a space where I can put. It's supposed to be a business card, but I can put these cardstock images. Okay, so you create all these things. Now let me tell you why it's so helpful and so necessary for you as the dungeon master. Because what you're going to do is you're going to write on the back of this thing who that is, okay? You're going to make some notes for yourself, and depending on the situation, for Blackjack Mel, I have who he is. A lot of times they'll say what stat block you're supposed to be using for an NPC. I go ahead and write this on there. Okay, so if they decide they want to pickpocket an NPC, I don't have to search through. I don't have to go back to the description of the room where they're found. That's always the way it is in any town that you're using in your campaign. All the NPCs are just listed where the players are supposed to first meet them. So you're having to go through and find Blackjack Mel's description just to find out that he has scoundrel stats. So I find out, I get that and I write that down. So if somebody decides they want to try to deceive them or sneak past them, I can find their stats quickly. I'll often put where that NPC is going to be found. In Mel's case, it's the Skull and Sword Tap House there in Emberwood Village. And finally, I'll put a little mark. A lot of these campaigns have people that are parts of different factions. A lot of these campaigns have For example, the house on Griffin Hill, you have some people that kind of have some idea of what's going on in Mordenshire and the house on Griffin Hill, and some people who don't, and some people who are kind of in on it. And so you can write on the back of somebody's stat block what faction they're a part of, or what they know, or something like that, right? And then, of course, if you don't do character voices for all of your NPCs and so forth, you're wrong. And tell us down in the comments if you don't know how to do that. I'll do a video about how to do character voices. But on the back of anybody's card, I put a note that helps me remember how to quickly get into the character voice that I'm using for that person, okay? So this is the mayor of Mordenshire, and he talks like a used car salesman. It was easy to get into his voice. I just wrote schmaltzy on there. So why are we doing all this, right? Why does the DM need to do this as an absolute essential part of their prep? Basically, when you are getting ready to run that beginning town, you have actually more cognitive load that you're trying to manage than when you run the first dungeon. Okay, fight me in the comments over this, but this is a fact of life. The first dungeon in here, I can run the Rat's Nest. I just need to read through it about once, and then I can pretty much run it from the book, right? As you reach each room, I read the description, I glance real quick to see what the monsters are, and I can run it. Unless there's some kind of big puzzle or something really intricate about the dungeon, I can read it and run it from the book. It's not that way with Emberwood Village. It's not that way with the village of Hamlet when I ran the Temple of Elemental Evil, okay? When the players come up to an NPC, I can't just sit down and read the description, kind of glance through the description in the Inn of the Welcome Wench or wherever they are in Emberwood Village and get right back into that character and remember kind of who they are and how I wanted to play them and how they're supposed to react to the NPCs. Just reading the adventure, even 3 or 4 times, those things don't get solidified in your mind. And so the players, when they arrive at Emberwood Village, they can go anywhere what they want. When they get out of the sanatorium in Mordenshire, they can go anywhere. And so I need to be pretty much ready at the drop of the hat to play all these different NPCs that they're going to encounter. This is the priest there in the town, right? Father Joshua Talbot. I've got to be able to remember that he's one of the fearfully silent. I was doing kind of my best Irish impression, and he's obviously very nervous the whole time that anyone's talking to him. And by making this card and associating that character in my mind, this picture gave me something concrete to grab hold of, so when it was time to play him, when the party finally went to the burnt-down church there in Mordenshire, I was ready to go. And just pulling this card out and setting it up so that my players could see the front, and I saw his name on the back. You see, I didn't put very much notes on here, but I spent a lot of time thinking about him, and having a face to put with the voice helps me prep. So, go through this step the next campaign that you're prepping and see if it doesn't help you with all these NPCs. Now, I promised you that it's also going to help your players, and it will, okay? So when the players meet an NPC, if you're able to show them a picture, and it's the same picture you showed them last time they met that person, and then you remind them, this is Justinian, he's one of the guards in Mordenshire. You show them the picture again, you remind them who this person is, and then you have the picture up there in front of them while you're playing. This is something you can do if you're playing online, right? You can just plop that picture down, and the whole time the characters are interacting with that NPC, you've got that picture in front of them. That's very helpful. This is even more so helpful because you're able to do a specific voice for that person. You're able to remember, what you were doing. And so if you put this in front of your players, and if you are doing a voice or doing some kind of personality that's memorable, the players are going to be able to tolerate more NPCs than they would otherwise. And what I mean by tolerate is players, even if they're taking notes, those first couple of sessions, they can start to get overwhelmed by how many NPCs there are. Let me tell you something. In the Temple of Elemental Evil, in the village of Hamlet, there's a lot of NPCs. Okay? There's objectively a lot. And I introduced them fast and furious in that first session because you're trying to establish a sense of place. You want the players later to come back and be like, oh, yeah, we need to talk to Rufus and Byrne back in Hamlet. They might know something about this. They need to remember, the innkeeper at the Inn of the Welcome Wench or whoever it is. So the players will start to feel overwhelmed by how many NPCs you're throwing at them, even in Emberwood Village. Now, there's not as many NPCs in Emberwood Village, but you know what there is? There's all these faction leaders that you've got to start talking about, right? So even if they don't see these faction leaders in the early part of the campaign, having the card where you can put it up there and say, oh, they're talking about the head of the Thieves Guild, the Queen of Thieves, right? And her group is called the Queen's Men, and this is her lieutenant. And even if they're not meeting them, they are trying to keep track of all these characters in their head. So having something, you can see my printer was running out of ink. Printer ink is a racket, people. It is a scam. We've got to all rise up and demand cheap printer ink. But being able to help them remember who the faction heads are is going to make it feel less overwhelming that there's everybody in Emberwood Village, plus all the faction heads, plus all the faction lieutenants, and what they all want. And, the party starts walking around in Emberwood Village and starts collecting rumors. Well, it can just feel like, what have you gotten us into? We just want to come in here and fight some monsters and level up and tell some Monty Python jokes. Why are there 23 NPCs that you're expecting me to remember? Well, you're expecting them to remember them because it is going to make the campaign better as the story goes on. But for now, having these physical props that you can put in front of them can help them remember. And here's a little added bonus. It'll help you remember. Sometimes having a picture, like the party goes from Mordenshire into the house on Griffin Hill and comes back to Mordenshire in real time. We're only playing every week, and not even that if somebody misses. And so in real time, it's been a month and a half since they spoke to this guy, right? In the campaign, it's only been one day. But even I have a hard time remembering, was the mayor mad at them or did he send them on a quest, right? I have found, for my aging memory, having this picture and having some notes on the back helps me remember, as soon as I pull it, they're like, we're going to the mayor's house. As soon as I pull this out, I remember, yeah. He was kind of trying to cover up that there's anything wrong at the house on Griffin Hill. I put it up into my little stand, and I'm ready to go. So it's going to help your players, and it's also going to help you. Now, so this is why you're going to do this. This is why you need to try it every campaign that you do. This is why from now on, we need to all band together and ask the people who create these campaigns, these big Kickstarters. The Dungeons of Drakkenheim, they produced all these cards, and the cards had all the different mutations and all the different magic items and the different levels of contamination. There were 3 cards for each level of contamination, so you could hand them out to your players. Nobody that I know of prints out NPC cards to show to your players when you're playing in person, right? I know that all those cards aren't for online play. It's for playing in person. Give us art in the clear of all these NPCs and give us a space to write on the back of the card. This is the future of gaming, people. Get behind my push to get publishers to realize how important this is. Okay, so thing number 4, I promised you I was gonna give you a tip that was gonna take you to the 4D chess and really, really blow your characters away. Okay, here it is. When you're online and you are searching for art for your different NPCs, right? And you're finding some pretty good period stuff, and you're looking at your list, and then you're looking at your art that you've downloaded. You make a little folder. Go ahead and keep some of those extra images that seem like they fit the tone of your campaign and they kind of fit the period that you're going for, but you didn't necessarily attach them to anyone. Go ahead and print them out too and have them in your folder full of NPC cards. Okay? This is going to blow your characters' minds, because here's the thing. You might have cards for all the characters that you expect them to talk to more than twice. But what you can never plan for is sometimes players will latch on to a particular NPC. There might be an NPC that was at the front gate when they first reached that outpost of the Hooded Lanterns in Emberwood Village, right? There's that little fort that they have there, right? And the person that comes and answers the door, you just do a voice off the top of your head, and maybe you pick a name off the top of your head, and then they're like, oh, hey, 4 sessions later, they're like, hey, that guy who's the guard, who's the gate guard, he'll know, like, if people have been leaving or coming and going, or he might have seen if these adventurers that we've heard about have headed into the city or not. Let's go talk to that guy again. Right? So sometimes the players will latch onto an NPC who you really weren't planning to be anybody, but it's perfectly logical for them to go back and talk to them given the interaction they already had with them. So here's what you do about the second or third time that they go and talk to that guy. You grab his card. You grab one of these cards that seems close enough that it might possibly be that guy. You write Kadard Clean-In. He's one of the guards here in the house on Griffin Hill over there in Mordenshire. And he became a person of note. There were some things that happened with this guy that I didn't expect. But I looked at this picture and I was like, this could be somebody in my Ravenloft Gothic horror campaign. So really knock your players out by keeping a couple extra pictures in the back of your file. You never know when you're going to want to use one of them to add to your collection of NPC portraits. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. Am I onto something, or is this something that only works for me and for nobody else? Let me know down in the comments, and stay tuned to the Henchman's Memoirs. We'll be doing more campaign recaps and more campaign advice videos coming up.